Hello, Pace 111 class. It's Steve. I hope that you are having a great week number 2. And I wanted to just touch base about our theme for week number 2, which is focusing on learning how to learn. As silly as that sounds, learning is kind of a science. It's kind of an art form. So I thought I would share with you a resource that I use in my full-time role at the University of Maryland College Park in a course I teach called UNIV 100. And in that course, somewhat similar to PACE 111, but the big difference is the students in UNIV 100 are right out of high school. You folks have a wealth of life experience. You have enriching lived experiences so that we want to tap into. So there are a couple things in this document I just wanted to go over with you and share with you because I think they might be helpful to you, especially if this is your first semester back at school. So one of the things to think about is how you really approach learning. So you see here on this slide, we have the mastery students, we have the performance students, and we have the performance avoidance students. So the mastery students are what I would call the true learners. These are individuals who are really passionate about learning. They're intellectually curious. They are really in it for learning's sake, I guess you could say. The performance-driven student, I would say, is more on the perfectionist side of things. This might be the student who really is very concerned about their grades in their courses, which is admirable. We want you to care about your performance. But what makes them different is you add in that their total focus seems to be on performance. They're performance-driven students. You see here, one of the items, the burnout and excessive stress can result from being an overly performance-driven student. And then we have the performance avoidance. So these are going to be the students who are, I don't know if I told you this example, but when I was in college, I took a sophomore year, I had a literature class. I wasn't interested in literature. I'm not good at literature. I'm not good at interpreting literature. And I ended up getting a D- in the class. Why? Because I was a performance avoider. I gave up on the course. When things got tough, I got my first exam back. I was using a lot of those fixed mindset statements. I think one of our items for this week is looking at growth and fixed mindsets. I was more of a fixed mindset with that class. And you think about, not to go all psychology on you here, but some of the causal attributions for success and failures. This ties in very nicely to, again, our theme of a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. So basically, if you view things as changeable, that's going to be a growth mindset. We can learn, we can improve. That's a growth mindset. If you believe that you control your own destiny, that you have control over your performance, your learning, that's going to be this internal focus here. And that also falls on the side of a growth mindset. And finally, if you believe that you do control your outcomes, I guess you could say, control the processes and outcomes of your college experience, that too is going to fall more on the growth mindset side of things. And then we talk a little bit about setting academic goals. I'm again reviewing what are your motivations assignment and where you had to set goals. And so one of the things I might be mentioning to some of you when I'm reviewing your goals is to try to be specific. We want to be able to provide evidence that the goal is progressing. So here, I've listed some academic goals that I would have to say are somewhat vague. So one student saying my goal is to do really well this semester, or I'm going to study really hard and see what happens. Well, those goals need some specificity to them. They're vague. They don't allow for accountability. So, what is a good example of a specific academic goal? So, I have here, you have a study session coming up for your bio class. What are 2 or 3 specific goals you might set for that study session? So, trying to really, even for the smaller tasks that you have for an assignment or a learning event for a class, even like a study session, you want to set goals. What do I want to get out of this study session? What are 2 of the takeaways that I'm hoping to have from that study session? And then we talk about motivation here, listing some things that getting in the way of reaching your goals. So for me, these can often happen to me. So procrastination, so putting off something we're not looking forward to doing, can lead to procrastination. Low self-esteem, so that's the I can't versus the I can. So we want to start using that I can language. I will. Feeling overwhelmed. Some of you might be taking multiple courses this term, as well as your military service or your full-time employment, your family obligations. It can get pretty overwhelming. So we want to try to manage that. Just having a lack of interest in the topics, the subject matter of your courses. So what I found helpful with this motivational barrier was to really find meaning in everything I was studying. Trying to really apply it and relate it to my life was really helpful. And then a lack of direction. That's where those specific goals really come into play. You want to have specific goals that lay a solid foundation for you in terms of guidance and directions. And thinking about what you're currently doing to stay motivated. So I provided some sample motivational strategies here that you can see. So it's helpful to have a regular routine, stick to a regular schedule. I already mentioned making a concerted effort to relate the academics to your personal and professional lives, taking breaks. You'll find from me right now, for example, last night I was only able to get through 3 assignments. I wasn't really into it, to be honest. So I'm trying to tackle that more today. But what I found is helpful for me is to take breaks, take things in smaller doses. It makes it more manageable. Change the order of how you study. So not always, yeah, it's good to have a routine where later in the course you're going to develop a weekly plan, a month plan, a 4-week plan as to study skills plan, study plan. And sometimes it's good to mix it up, that you're not always studying history on a Thursday. And we already talked about the I can do this attitude. So I hope this was helpful to you. Just a really quick introduction to motivation and learning, since our topic for week number 2 is learning how to learn. And with that, I bid you a farewell and keep up the great work.